Welcome to the Immune Edit. I'm Dr. Doug Jones. If your immune system feels like the enemy, or you're just tired of not feeling like yourself, this space is for you. I'm Dr. Doug Jones, and I'm so happy that you have chosen to join us today. Last time, we spoke about an emerging topic in the world called long COVID. Once COVID hit several years ago, it obviously brought several changes to the world. And one of the things that we were so intent on during the COVID pandemic was getting solutions, getting a cure, getting answers, and there was a massive push to get vaccines in the world. And so we had this whole thing about COVID vaccines. Now, while I acknowledge those vaccines have done a tremendous amount of good in the world because it introduced to many people at least a baseline level of immunity against COVID, there is a subset of the population that had significant adverse reactions to the COVID vaccine in particular, and the mRNA vaccines in particular. What's interesting is that group of patients that were experiencing a lot of the side effects to the COVID vaccine were initially silenced, muted, not validated, and not even believed that they were having symptoms from these. The next easy thing for the world to do to this group of patients is to just stereotype and throw them in this category of your anti-vaxxers. And so then you have this immediate division between vaccine community and science, and then those that have struggled with it. And a lot of the patients initially that were reporting various side effects and adverse reactions to the COVID vaccine were actually people that were participating in the clinical trials. So it's hard to say they're anti-vax when they were volunteering to trust the pharmaceutical companies and the industry. They were trusting and actually participating in the science of trying to get vaccines into the world and into people so that we could have a baseline immunity and a herd immunity. The problem is once they were reporting certain side effects and certain problems, they weren't heard, they weren't supported, they weren't listened to. But yet they continued to struggle and they had like nowhere to go. And so they formed, a lot of those initial folks were able to form a nonprofit organization called React 19 that's done a lot of great work in the world. Again, nonprofit foundation to raise awareness and to give themselves a voice. I got involved with React 19 a while ago, and what's just fascinating is how quickly people do want to dismiss this group. There isn't actually a diagnosis code currently for those that suffered vaccine injury from the COVID vaccines. That's how unrecognized it is in at least the United States. But when you start talking about vaccine injury, again, what certain powers that be want to do is to automatically put them into an anti-vax category. This is just inappropriate and it's wrong. Just because somebody suffered an adverse reaction to a vaccine doesn't mean they are anti-vaxxer, nor does it mean that they are ignoring science. What I am going to do with this podcast is I want to raise awareness about this group because it's an important group that has been unheard, misunderstood, and not validated. And there is a lot that we can learn from this group, and they need support, they need help, and they deserve our ear and they deserve our respect. This group, similar, you can have acute. I'm going to break it down into two categories. Just like you can have acute COVID and then you can have long COVID, you can have acute reactions to COVID vaccines. And you can also have what's called a post vaccine syndrome, where you have ongoing multi system symptoms that linger, months, if not years post vaccine. There is some overlap in this group that have been vaccine injured with those that have long COVID. Many of these patients, like long COVID patients, struggle from mast cell disorders or POTS, that stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or angioedema or gut health issues, significant immune dysregulation, autoimmune disorders, immune deficiency, brain fog, fatigue, post exertional malaise. But this particular group also dominate with chronic headaches, something called small fiber neuropathies, and dysautonomias, where they have a dysregulation of something called the autonomic nervous system. That's where POTS comes from. But the autonomic nervous system is that part of the nervous system that just takes care of things automatically within our body. Heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, digestion. Those are things that we don't have to think about. Those are things that our body just regulates automatically. Well, imagine if that wasn't done automatically. Imagine if all of a sudden those systems that we just take for granted that work automatically don't work anymore, or there's a dysregulation to them. That's what these patients struggle with. They also have a dominance of a reactivation of viruses like Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex. Epstein-Barr virus, by the way, is what we often think of as mononucleosis and associated with chronic fatigue. So these patient group, when they have multi-systems involved, can be really debilitated. It can impact almost every part of their life. Many have lost jobs. Many have had to alter their careers. And all the while not being heard by the medical community, not being recognized by governments, by pharmaceutical industries, and also at the same time, automatically being thrown into the stereotypical bucket of anti-vaxxer. Well, I'm going to stand up against that and say they're not that. They are just people who actually were vaccinated, had an adverse reaction to that, and were not supported in that. Okay? And that's important. So many times when this vaccine was first coming out and people were trying to promote it, it was, safe, effective, adverse reactions were rare. And a lot of those reporting systems were suppressed. And it doesn't mean that just because somebody's having symptoms from it, they too should be supported. These vaccines should be treated really like, medications. I mean, when things are going through clinical trials, if you have a symptom from that clinical trial, that gets reported and that is listed on like that package insert that you get with medications. The only thing that was really dominant in terms of what was being reported was myocarditis and pericarditis. You'll notice in the list of things that I gave for injuries, symptoms with those with post-vaccine syndrome, I actually didn't really even mention myocarditis and pericarditis. Do they happen? Yeah, absolutely they happen. But what I was trying to shed light on purposely was the whole host of other symptoms that these patients may deal with. And so I think it's just important that we emphasize, first of all, that they exist. Second, they command and demand our respect. We have to get them help. Third, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden this is some anti-vax campaign. Fourth, what it means is we just want to make sure that there is informed consent, that we answer questions properly of risk, benefit of the vaccine, and also risk, benefit of the alternative of not getting vaccinated. We have to know better what's the risk of acute COVID, what's the risk of long COVID, what's the efficacy truly of the vaccine, what's the efficacy of this vaccine in not only preventing serious infection, severe disease acutely, but also what is the effectiveness in preventing long COVID, but also what is the risk of adverse reactions? How scrutinized is the vaccine? What are the safety measures in place in its manufacturing and production? These are things that I think as we move forward, we need to ensure there's safety. I understand during the times of COVID, the push to get vaccines out. I look at times of COVID, it's like when you're at war, you have to make certain decisions that may be different than when you're in times of peace. There's peacetime decisions, there's wartime decisions. And sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you have to make certain decisions that are different than peace times when you have time to really dive in and evaluate. During COVID, it was like wartime. It was like biological warfare, right, against us. So we had to make certain decisions for the overall safe and health and well-being of the population. But right now, we're kind of, in terms of COVID, maybe at a peacetime, if you will, and we have time now to really dive in, improve our reporting systems, improve our clinical trials, improve the scrutiny of what we're looking at, and so that we're making sure that we are continuing to improve vaccine technology, that we're continuing to improve the support of those who may have adverse reactions or side effects to vaccines. I treat a lot of patients who have been injured by COVID vaccine. And at the start, I couldn't offer a lot. It was emerging before us. Patients would come in. The best I could do at that time was just acknowledge and validate and say, you know what? I need to learn from you. I need to learn what's happening. I need to hear your symptoms. I need to hear what you're experiencing so that I can try and understand this from a scientific perspective and get you the best evidence-based care that I possibly can. And at first, all I could do was acknowledge. But over the course of time and through the years, more and more studies, more and more understanding, better understanding of the multi-systems that are involved, the mechanisms that are involved, those root causes of what's happening with these patients, we can now offer better diagnostics, more individualized therapies, and actually a strategy and a treatment to better support and help this community. And I think that's important. Does this whole thing from me say that I'm anti-vax? No, I'm not. And I better never be labeled that. I am not that. I am for science. I am for truth. I am for patients. First, do no harm. I am for the patients globally, but also individually. But I think it's important that we do truly evaluate the risks and benefits on all fronts with this. This is an important topic, and it's not going away anytime soon. But more than anything, my heart always goes out to those perhaps who haven't been heard, who haven't been served. And I want you to know that there's hope and there's help. There's somebody that will listen to you. I will listen to you. I will hear you. I will validate you. I may not know everything, but I will give you everything that I got. And we will do our best to stay on top of the science, stay on top of the latest in diagnostics, and also treatment for you. we now can have specific strategies for these patients. What I've been able to develop on my own has also the benefit of many, many brilliant colleagues that I have who I'm so thankful for their research, for their dedication, for their sharing of information, but also for great patient advocacy groups like React 19. That group is done some tremendous work in the world to advocate for their patients, to be a help, to be that voice, to stand up when nobody else would. And I want them to know, these nonprofit patient advocacy groups, I will stand with you, hand in hand, doing all we can for you. You are now heard. You are now validated. We will walk together to continue to raise awareness and to make sure that we are doing the best and the most right by patients. And I'm thankful for those that have reached out to me who have tried to, bring things to my awareness so that I could try in my circle of influence and in my sphere to do all I can for those patients so that nobody feels alone. I just want you to know you're not alone. And if you're hurting or in pain or whatever, reach out. Reach out to us. We're here for you. And if the edit that we'll make today is if you're coming across somebody who's saying, I'm having a lot of fatigue, or I'm having pins and needles, or sensory sensations, or pain, or headaches, or chronic fatigue, listen to them, hear them. There's a lot of things in the world, and the last thing anyone needs is to be discarded. Let's respect each other. Let's lean in with compassion. Let's validate, but let's also demand better science. Don't just be clickbait. Don't just look at the headlines. Let's demand more. Let's raise the standard, have higher quality, and let's work together. Thank you for joining this, and hopefully it's raised some awareness on a group of patients that haven't really been given the proper voice. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much again for tuning in. We'll see you next time on The Immune Edit. This show is separate from my clinical practice at Global Allergy Immune Network. This show represents my opinions and my guests' opinions. Neither myself nor the show endorses the views or statements of my guests. This show is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. This show is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you're looking for help in your journey, please seek out a qualified medical practitioner. It's important to have someone in your corner who is a trained and licensed healthcare practitioner who can help you make changes, especially when it comes to your health.